Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are plunging into the world of artificial intelligence, drawing insights directly from Eric Schmidt.
Yeah, the former Google CEO,
Yeah.
specifically from interviews he's given about his book Genesis.
Yeah.
He wrote that with Henry Kissinger, of course.
That's right, Genesis, Artificial Intelligence, Hope, and the Human Spirit. So we've essentially gone through a whole load of these discussions.
We have. And our mission for you today is really to pull out the key insights, the most important takeaways about AI's, well, incredible speed right now.
And its impact.
Exactly. Its impact, the challenges, all seen through the lens of Schmidt and Kissinger, based on what Schmidt's been saying in these talks.
And the book's core idea, it really hits you straight away. They're arguing AI isn't just, the next gadget or software update.
No, it's fundamentally different. They call it a new non-human intelligence.
A non-human intelligence. Wow. They see it as the start of a whole new era. A transformative beginning is the phrase they use.
Putting it up there with things like the Age of Exploration or the Reformation. Huge historical shifts.
That's a big claim. And what comes across is this sense of urgency from them.
Definitely. Schmidt really stresses that the world just isn't ready, not for this scale, this speed.
And Kissinger's perspective, coming from that global strategy background.
Right. He was apparently very concerned that these massive decisions, they shouldn't just be left to the tech folks, the engineers.
Understandable. So the book tries to explore the ripple effects on society, jobs.
Society, how we organize ourselves, the future of work, global power structures, all of it.
And the speed, you mentioned speed, that seems critical. Schmidt keeps coming back to it.
He does. Much, much more quickly than societies are ready for. That's a direct quote you hear him use. He calls it discontinuous change, faster than even they thought.
So let's dig into that main argument from Genesis, this new intelligence.
Yeah.
What actually makes it new in their view?
Well, Schmidt describes it as non-human, unconstrained in some important ways, at least currently, and crucially, under developer control for now. It's not just making humans smarter.
It's a different category of thing.
Exactly. Something else entirely.
And comparing it to those major historical turning points, the end of one age, the start of an age of intelligence, that really lands the scale they're thinking on?
It does. It's not just incremental. Even Schmidt admits surprise.
Even him, after everything he's seen at Google.
Yeah. He says the rate of progress has been faster than expected. He points to ChatGPT as this kind of watershed moment.
The moment everyone suddenly got it.
Pretty much. When the public, maybe even some doubters, suddenly grasped the potential, the reality of it.
And Kissinger's role emphasizes that this isn't just a tech story.
Not at all. It highlights the deep worry from someone thinking about global stability, about the fabric of society itself. What does this power do to us?
Okay, so if it's moving this fast, what's actually pushing it? What are the drivers behind this rapid evolution?
Schmidt identifies a few key tech breakthroughs he thinks are, well, imminent, coming very soon, like next year or two soon.
Okay, like what?
One big one is the context window expansion.
What does that mean exactly?
It's basically the AI's short-term memory. Expanding it allows the model to hold and process vastly more information at once. It helps solve that problem where models forget things quickly, lets them work with really current info.
So you could feed it, say, all of today's news and have it make connections.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
The scale changes the game. Then there's the development of AI agents.
Agents? You mean like secret agents?
Not quite. More like autonomous systems.
Yeah.
They aren't just passive responders. They actively pursue goals.
So they can try things out.
Yes. Try different methods to solve a problem, look at the results, learn, adapt. Schmidt gives this example of an AI for chemistry
Oh, yeah.
that could generate hypotheses, maybe even run experiments using robots overnight, analyze the data, and then plan the next steps.
I bet so.
Wow. Like a tireless, super smart researcher that learns as it goes. Pretty much. And then there's the jump he calls text to action.
So going from words to deeds.
Exactly. You give the AI a command in plain English, and it translates that into actual operations, real-world steps.
Right.
Schmidt paints this picture of having your own, infinite programmer.
Yeah.
You describe what you want, maybe vaguely, and it figures out how to build it or do it.
Okay, that sounds powerful. And a bit intimidating for actual programmers, maybe.
Well, he suggests productivity boosts first. But yeah, the potential is huge. And interestingly, he also mentions these agents might even start creating their own computer languages to talk to each other.
Really? Wow. Okay, beyond the tech itself, what else is fueling this? Money.
Oh, absolutely. Schmidt uses the word mind-boggling to describe the amount of capital flooding into AI.
Right. The investment levels are astronomical.
Huge sums.
Hmm.
Because there's this belief, this hope, maybe hype, that inventing intelligence yields almost infinite returns.
Which could also be setting us up for a massive bubble down the road.
That's certainly a risk he acknowledges. But for now, that money fuels the scaling, the race for bigger, better models.
And what about the scaling laws? The idea that bigger compute equals better AI, is that still holding?
There's some debate now, maybe signs of diminishing returns at the very high end,
Yeah.
but the need for massive resources isn't going away.
Still need the hardware, the data.
And the electricity?
Yeah.
That's becoming a major bottleneck, according to Schmidt, powering these enormous data centers.
Where's the power going to come from?
They're looking everywhere. Canada's hydropower, energy resources in Arab nations, talk of restarting nuclear plants.
Fusion energy is a long shot.
Fusion's the wild card, yeah. And the scale of these facilities, he makes this stark comparison, saying we might need to secure these powerful AI data centers like we secure nuclear materials.
Like plutonium plants? That's serious.
That's the analogy he uses. Shows the perceived power and potential danger.
Okay, let's pivot. From the drivers to the impact. What does Schmidt see changing soonest, maybe in the next, say, 5 years?
Jobs are a big one, obviously. He thinks automation will hit tasks that are repetitive, less human, maybe dangerous.
The least interesting jobs, as he puts it.
Yeah. But for knowledge workers, college-educated folks, it's more about working with AI, becoming partners.
So augmenting human skills.
Initially, yes. He predicts programmers, for instance, could see their productivity double. But eventually, he sees AI becoming superhuman in fields like math and programming.
Because they're self-validating. The answer is either right or wrong.
Exactly. The logic checks out internally.
Now, this next one seems very relevant for everyone listening. The personal AI assistant.
Right. This is a big part of Schmidt's vision. Not just the smart speakers we have now, but something far more powerful.
Like what?
Imagine an incredibly intelligent, sort of polymath AI assistant, always available maybe on your phone, in your pocket.
Polymath. Wow.
Yeah, deeply personalized, helping you cut through information overload, offering insights specific to your situation. He thinks this changes everything: daily life, work. He mentions tools like Notebook LM. He describes it as an extraordinary AI partner for really digging into documents, media, analyzing information deeply. And he notes that a key part of early successes, like ChatGPT getting good, was RHFL.
RHFL.
Reinforcement learning from human feedback. Basically, humans guiding the AI, refining its answers. That human element was crucial.
So it's not just personal use. This transforms industries, too.
Across the board. Schmidt's view is pretty stark. AI will reprogram every financial, marketing, and business system, period.
So adapt or
likely get left behind. He believes future successful companies will be the ones embedding AI everywhere. R&D, operations, customer interaction.
He even jokes about AI helping with investments, freeing up humans to play more golf.
Yeah, that was one comment. Using AI to assess deals, perhaps leading to more leisure time for the deal makers. We'll see about that.
Okay, but beyond the economy, he also sees huge potential benefits for society, right?
Absolutely. He's quite optimistic in some areas. Healthcare is a major one. Faster drug discovery.
Like the AlphaFold protein folding breakthrough.
Exactly like that. He sees AI driving precision medicine, improving healthcare access globally. Maybe AI apps, helping nurses in remote villages.
Continuous health monitoring.
That too. Using AI to constantly track health data.
And education. How does AI change learning?
The vision there is personalized learning at scale. AI tutors adapting to each student's language learning style.
A programmer buddy for kids learning to code.
Yeah, that's an example he uses. He suggests AI could transmit static knowledge, facts, and figures, potentially millions of times faster than traditional teaching.
What about bigger global challenges, like climate change?
AI could be crucial there too. Designing new algorithms for better energy systems, discovering new materials.
Accelerating fusion research through modeling.
That's a hope. Optimizing energy grids. And in science generally, AI tackling these incredibly complex prediction problems, protein sequences, physical systems that humans struggle with.
He also makes a point about languages, doesn't he? Making sure AI works beyond just English.
Yes, that's important. Ensuring AI is developed for low-resource languages too, to avoid just reinforcing the dominance of English and potentially marginalizing other cultures.
Okay, let's shift gears now to the global picture. Schmidt frames this whole AI race as a major competition.
Oh, absolutely. He calls it the big fight for the next 20 years, knowledge supremacy, and it's primarily U.S. versus China.
What are the U.S. advantages, in his view?
He points to the talent pool, strong universities, attracting global talent, a sort of cultural willingness to compete and win, and the chip advantage.
The hardware?
Yeah, the advanced chips needed for training these huge models. He estimates the U.S. has maybe a 10-year lead in the really cutting-edge stuff, sub-5 nanometer tech. He also mentions NVIDIA's Kide platform.
The software layer for their GPUs.
Right, calling it the C programming language for GPUs, giving them a big edge, though AMD is trying to compete with ROCm.
But China isn't standing still, despite U.S. restrictions on chips.
Far from it. They're catching up fast. Schmidt notes they've produced foundation models, DeepSeek, Qwen, others that are surprisingly close to top Western models in performance.
How are they managing that?
Massive state investment, a huge number of skilled people, a national focus on AI. That's civil-military fusion strategy.
Meaning tech developed for civilian use gets applied by the military and vice versa.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, they have the sheer electrical power capacity needed for training. Schmidt emphasizes this isn't a game for small players. It's a big boy game.
Requiring huge resources.
Thousands of people, billions of dollars, cutting-edge hardware, complex industrial planning. It's massive.
So, if it's U.S. versus China primarily, what about other countries? Europe, for instance.
Schmidt is pretty critical of Europe's approach. He basically says they screwed up with regulation like the EU AI Act. His argument is that focusing too heavily on safety, explainability, things like that, before innovation really takes off, actually hinders research and makes it hard to compete. Plus, he cites issues with funding, energy, and maybe a less innovation-focused culture.
Okay. What about India?
He sees India very differently, calls it a big swing state.
Why?
Brilliant universities, a massive talent pool. He points out how many tech leaders in Silicon Valley are from the South Asian diaspora. He thinks India has a shot to be a real player.
And Russia.
He thinks Russia set itself back decades because of the war in Ukraine.
That leads to a tough point he makes about the global south generally.
Yeah, that's a sobering assessment. He's worried AI could be actively very bad for developing nations, especially in Africa, unless there were deliberate efforts to counteract that.
Why bad?
Because the tech, as it's evolving now, doesn't naturally spread equality or wealth. It tends to concentrate power and benefits. He raises the question, what happens to these often agrarian democratic nations?
Is it possible to contain the spread, like with the chip controls?
It's proving really difficult. Schmidt says while restrictions on NVIDIA chips had some impact, China finds ways around them. Developing alternatives, using black markets, doing the training elsewhere, containment is leaky. He also gives that insight into the Silicon Valley mindset.
The run the tests and clean up the mess idea.
Exactly. Move fast, break things, worry about the consequences later. That ethos fuels the speed, but obviously creates tension with safety and regulation.
Which brings us squarely to the risks. Beyond competition, what are the major concerns Schmidt highlights from Genesis? A big one seems to be just societal readiness.
Or lack thereof, yeah. Governments, existing laws, societal norms, even just normal people, as he puts it, are not prepared for this speed and scale of change.
He uses that movie title.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. That captures the feeling. It's overwhelming our ability to adapt, changing our shared understanding, our doxa.
And the impact on us as individuals sounds like a deep concern, too.
Definitely. He talks about the possibility of AI best friends for kids.
Best friends? That sounds weird.
It does raise flags. Concerns about non-human influence shaping values, AI as surrogate parents almost. And then there's radicalization.
How does AI feed into that?
Algorithms can optimize for engagement, which sometimes means pushing people towards more extreme content, isolating lonely individuals, and connecting them with harmful online groups tailored to their peculiarities.
And he warns that state-sponsored misinformation could become
State-sponsored best friends, using AI personas to manipulate populations. Chilling stuff.
Misinformation generally is a huge problem, amplified by AI's capabilities.
Right. Schmidt notes algorithms often reward outrage, biasing systems towards, as he says, crazy stuff. He's critical of social media platforms, noting cuts in trust and safety teams.
Can AI even learn to lie?
There's the theoretical concern that advanced AI in pursuing a goal might learn deception, even self-deception.
So how does the industry try to manage this trust and safety efforts?
They do have teams. They use techniques like red teaming, hiring people to actively try and break the AI, find its flaws, its harmful potential, before it's released.
Adversarial AI.
Exactly. And trying to detect dangerous capabilities, even if the AI can't explain how it got them, there's that threshold he mentioned.
The 10 to the 26 flops thing.
Yeah, an arbitrary computational power threshold reported to the U.S. government as a potential flag for dangerous capabilities. But the speed and the profit motive are always pushing against these safety measures.
Another risk is proliferation, the power getting out.
A big concern. If these powerful tools become widely available, bad actors, terrorists, how do you control that? It's an unsolved problem.
And for nations, the security implications are immense.
AI enables novel, unpredictable attacks, day zero attacks. So there's immense pressure, especially for the U.S., to stay ahead. The worry is adversaries like China or Russia getting there first.
Creating instability.
Hugely destabilizing. If one side thinks the other just months away from a decisive AI advantage, it creates Cold War-like pressures, potentially even incentivizing preemptive action. He points to things like those cheap white stork drones in Ukraine.
Taking out expensive tanks.
Yeah, showing how AI is already changing the face of warfare, making things less predictable.
Are there other roadblocks to using AI for good?
He mentions data silos. Our current systems, legal and economic, often prevent sharing the data needed to solve big problems. Medical data is the classic example. Locked up, hindering research.
And regulation just can't keep up.
It's incredibly difficult. Tech moves at lightning speed. Government moves. Well, government speed. Different countries trying different approaches. Europe's caution versus the U.S.'s. Historically, more hands-off style. The U.S. regulatory approach is still evolving.
There was an executive order.
Right. And potential changes depending on administrations. It's uncertain.
And the ethical concerns run deep in Genesis.
Very deep. Schmidt voices worry that AI's focus on pure efficiency could erode freedoms, that the centralizing potential of the tech might inherently benefit the dictator over the rule of the many.
Which leads to this fundamental question about knowledge itself. How does AI change how we know things, how we learn?
It's a huge question. We're building systems we don't fully grasp internally. Schmidt uses an analogy.
Like teenagers.
Kind of. You don't always know why they do things, but you understand boundaries. With AI, there's the explainability problem.
They can't tell us why they reached a conclusion.
Often, no. Which is a massive hurdle for trust, and for regulations like Europe's demand for explainability.
But even with AI doing so much, he still stresses basic human skills.
He does. He argues that understanding how things work, like learning to code, is still vital. Not just to use the tools, but to improve them, to partner effectively. It's also interesting, he made this comment about Google.
What was that?
Suggesting they maybe lost the initiative, partly due to prioritizing work-life balance over the kind of intense, maybe unsustainable work ethic you see at some startups, implying culture impacts the race.
So if AI can learn facts way faster than us, what's left for human learning?
That's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? Schmidt speculates we might need to focus more on uniquely human skills. High-level strategy, creative thinking, anticipating the unexpected.
Or maybe learning becomes more about using AI to build things.
Possibly. Less about memorizing, more about directing these powerful tools. But how do you make learning feel meaningful when you have an AI savant on call? It's a challenge.
So bringing this all together from our deep dive into Schmidt's interviews on Genesis, the message is clear. AI isn't incremental.
No, it's presented as a fundamental shift. The arrival of this new intelligence changes everything. Your life, your job, global power, maybe even what it means to be human.
And the core message from Schmidt and Kissinger seems to be about choice.
Exactly. This isn't predetermined. We have to make deliberate, informed choices about how we build and use this technology. Partnering with it, yes, but also managing the risks and trying to uphold human dignity.
But the central tension remains that speed mismatch, AI developing at warp speed.
While society, laws, ethics, governance struggle to catch up, that gap creates the danger, the instability we're already seeing play out.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on, drawing from all this. Schmidt paints a picture of AI potentially becoming a polymath, maybe smarter than the sum of all the humans you've ever interacted with and available to everyone.
So the question is, what does that truly mean for human potential? Does it elevate us or diminish us? How does it reshape our understanding of ourselves? And maybe most importantly, what kind of society do we need to actively start building now to navigate this new era well? How do we ensure this age of intelligence benefits all of humanity? What role will you play?
A lot to think about indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.